Robert Saleh is the new head coach of the Tennessee Titans, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers in his second stint. In between that, you have sandwiched one of the more embarrassing head coaching stints, if you will, in recent memory. It's because it's the New York Jets, and it's because the Jets are an absolute clown show embarrassment. And you'd name me any coach that has gone to New York outside of Rex Ryan and has had a lot of success over the last 20 years. Not many. So Robert Saleh is going to get a second chance. And my first reaction, Brad, is I don't mind it. I don't hate it.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many people that are willing to jump on the, this is the guy, this guy that failed with the Jets. Who wouldn't fail with the Jets? They gave him Zach Wilson as his quarterback, and then they gave Aaron Rodgers, who tore his Achilles 4 plays into the season. What did you expect the Jets to do under Robert Saleh? Right? So he's proven again with San Francisco that he's a hell of a defensive coordinator. The litany of injuries they dealt with this year. Nick Bosa was done for the year by week 3. Fred Warner was done for the year by week 6. They had third string pass rushers playing for half the season. And he made wine out of water. Niners defense found a way to be the ultimate bend but don't break defense. And that guy is going to call the defense. The reporting is that he's going to be the defensive play caller now for Tennessee. That's something that he wasn't with the New York Jets, right? I mean, he didn't do it when he was the head coach. He didn't want to make sure he was in over his head, so he didn't call the offense, obviously, but he didn't call the defense. And a lot of people, rightfully so, brought up, oh, well, he wasn't very good with clock management and game management. Okay, sure. Again, it was the New York freaking Jets. You and I think, both thought that the Titans were going to go with an offensive-minded coach to pair directly with Cam Ward, and that's probably the direction I would have went. And Amy Adams is the owner for the Tennessee Titans. Amy Adams Strunk, and she fired Mike Vrabel. So, of course, there's not a lot of Titans fans that are happy with her, with what Mike Vrabel has now gone on to do, coaching the Patriots right back to a budding dynasty here again. And the Titans have been left in the trash, with Brian Callahan failing miserably. But I don't mind Robert Saleh as the head coach because I can pretty much rely on that defense being a solid unit. And now this comes down to who's going to be the offensive coordinator, which we can talk about here in just a minute. But my general reaction, I think Robert Saleh deserved a second chance. I don't mind the hire at all. Just because he didn't succeed with the Jets does not mean he can't have success with the Titans. But you and I both know that that's going to obviously depend on the evolution and the development of Cam Ward.
Yeah, precisely. And I totally agree and really rubber stamp everything you said. I think Robert Saleh 100% deserves a second chance. I think he squeezed blood from a turnip this season based on the various injuries that you laid out within San Francisco 49ers and make that defense at least respectable. So he's got the tools, he's got the assets, he's got the coaching chops to turn this thing around. It's just all a matter of, do they get the right personnel on the field to really maximize the talents and the schematics of Robert Saleh defensively. And who is he going to then pair with at offensive coordinator? That's going to be a key hire for Saleh. And obviously he's going to attack it, full throttle immediately because you got to find somebody in the mesh as well. Not only strategically and schematically with Cam Ward, but mentally as well. The other big keys for Tennessee to be a respectable team in a hurry, they got to make investments at wide receiver. They got a young core. Chimere Dike had his moments at times. Alec Iomanner also played well on occasion, but they don't really have a true blue WR1. I mean, Calvin Ridley had a shortened season. It looks like, he's getting longer than two, could be in the wrong side of 30, has lost a step. The injuries have mounted. It's not going well for him and really wasn't going well for him when he was upright and healthy this year for the Tennessee Titans. So it's going to be a work in progress. So Saleh hopefully will have a little bit of a time and somewhat of a long rope because it's probably like 2 to 3 years away from that team, maybe flirting with 500 or exceeding it. So play the patience game down in Las Vegas. It's going to take some time, but I believe Saleh will eventually get the job done, will eventually make this team a contender, at least for a wild card spot, but we're looking probably 2 to 3 years away.
Now the big question is who's going to be the offensive coordinator and the play caller for Cam Ward. My two candidates. One, I think the most likely, or not the most likely, the most favorable, the most optimal would be Mike McDaniel, right? Who's, I predicted he would be the Buccaneers' next offensive coordinator. Detroit's got theirs with Drew Petzing. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And the Eagles are still searching for theirs. We'll see what happens with Buffalo, who gets the head coaching job if Joe Brady gets promoted or if Joe Brady leaves, if he doesn't get the job. So there's still a lot of very sexy positions that are going to be open here that we've got to find out where Mike McDaniel wants to go. He's still up for some head coaching positions. He's interviewed for a handful. So Mike McDaniel, Tennessee offense coordinator might be the last place he wants to go. But obviously, the connection between him and Robert Saleh, they were together in Houston years ago. They were together under Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco a handful of years ago. And I think that Robert Saleh would love Mike McDaniel to come in and be the OC, work with Cam Ward, implement that offense, really get the ball spinning out of his hands. And if they can find some receiver talent in the draft, then look out, that offense could make a huge jump if Mike McDaniel is calling the plays. The other candidate that I think is likely and would be optimal is Mike LaFleur, the offensive coordinator for the LA Rams. And I know what you and probably a lot of people are thinking when they hear that. Why the hell would Mike LaFleur leave the LA Rams, who could win a Super Bowl this year? Why would he leave under Sean McVay to then be the play caller for the Tennessee Titans? It's a fair point. Here's where I'll counter. Nathan Shieldhouse is a guy that you've talked about so many times right now, and he is getting so many looks to be a head coach. Forget about OC. He's getting so many looks to be a head coach. I haven't heard Mike LaFleur's name a lot, if at all, for head coaching opportunities. McVay's the play caller. That's McVay's offense. I wonder if Mike LaFleur is feeling like, hey, I got to take a lateral move here. Otherwise, I'm never going to get promoted. Kind of like what Eric Bieniemy thought he had to do. By the way, we got news on him coming up in a little bit as well. But I wonder if Mike LaFleur is saying, well, I'm not going to get promoted to the head coach. McVay's not leaving. I'm not getting a lot of head coach looks. And Nathan Shieldhouse, a guy that's technically under me on the seniority list, he's getting head coaching opportunities. Man, maybe I do have to be the guy that calls the plays, that runs the show on offense. Maybe I got to make a lateral move and go to Tennessee. And I think that if he thinks he can have success there, he can then parlay that into a head coaching opportunity. That's why I wouldn't count out Mike LaFleur. And I feel like if McDaniel doesn't go to Tennessee, Mike LaFleur, brother of Matt, also under the Shanahan tree, obviously worked with Saleh in the past, he could be the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. He was the offensive coordinator for the New York Jets when Robert Saleh was the head coach there. So obviously they've got very direct linkage together. Those are my two picks for the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I would love Mike McDaniel, first and foremost, to be that guy. I mean, he has got to be at the tippy top of the list, given his genius in terms of putting together, game schemes and game plans and just overall the playbook. And a guy that's a proven play caller. And again, that relationship going back a number of years of Robert Saleh, that builds trust. And that's exactly what Saleh wants. He's a guy, he knows, how much hard work he puts in. He knows what he can bring to the table on a game in and game out basis. So I think Mike McDaniel checks the biggest box possible. You're hearing a bunch of other names that are out there, a lot of other retreads like Arthur Smith. Seriously? No, Arthur Smith is not going to develop your young and still relatively unproven quarterback in a run-heavy, tight-end-heavy scheme. That's not the way to go unless you're a big, fantasy supporter of Chigakonkwo, maybe. But outside of that, yeah, I think you want Mike McDaniel top of the list. I think LaFleur, as you laid out, the case for is a very interesting name, to say the least. But Cam Ward, first and foremost, doesn't matter who is calling the shots, they got a scheme because they need weapons. And, Tony Pollard ain't getting any younger. Tyjae Spears is still there, more of a change of pace option at the running back position. I remember, I mentioned Chigakonkwo. He's a guy with a decent amount of talent. I've seen some, cases where he could be a breakout type of player, but a little bit undersized as a tight end. But outside of that, again, you don't have a reliable WR1. They got to bring in the right bodies to play to whatever system is implemented and give it time to develop and grow. So, and Cam Ward still needs to develop and grow in his own right. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting hire, to say the least. And it sounds like the Tennessee Titans are willing to open up the briefcase and serve up a boatload of cash to whatever OC hire that they have, because I want to bring in somebody who knows how to call plays, knows how to get the most out of those plays, and they have to instill that individual because you want to try to maximize the potential of the former number one overall pick in Cam Ward. So if you're going to do that, my recommendation, just back up the damn truck for Mike McDaniel.